This is Mrs. Wainwright's Math Class, Chapter 6, 7, and 8, Packet F, Lesson 3B, of after a fraction and multiplication without multiplying. Today's learning targets: when I see of after a fraction, I know to multiply, and I can use my knowledge of fractions to solve some problems without doing the math. Our first hint in fraction problems: of means times. Let's take a look at this. James ran 1/2 of the 8-mile trail. How far did James run? Well, the first thing we do in the word problem is find out what it's asking us. Look at the actual question. The actual question is, how far did James run? That's what we need to find out. The next thing we do in a word problem is go into the problem and see what facts we know. We know that he ran 1/2 of the 8-mile trail. He ran 1/2 of 8. Well, I'm not taking 1/2 away from 8 because he didn't run 1/2 less than 8. He didn't run 1/2 more than 8, so I'm not adding it. He ran 1/2 of 8, and we know that of means times when used after a fraction or a decimal. So you're going to say 1/2 times 8. So of means times when used after a decimal or a fraction. So let's go ahead and solve this problem. My 1/2 is a fraction, but my 8 is not, so I'm going to put my 8 over 1. Now I have 1/2 times 8 over 1. Use my GCF to fully simplify and multiply. When I solve the problem, I see that my answer equals 4. So James ran 4 miles. That's my final answer. So for this first fraction hint, of means times when it comes after a fraction. Sometimes you can simply use your knowledge of fractions to solve the problem without doing any math. Let's see how that works. So my next fraction hint, a given number times 1 equals the given number. That works for whole numbers, fractions, and mixed numbers. Let's take a look. Let's say my given number is 7, and I multiply it times 1. My answer, if this is true, a given number times 1 equals the given number, so my answer should equal 7. And that is true. 7 times 1 equals 7. Let's take the given number 15. I multiply it by 1. Well, a given number times 1 should equal the given number. And that is true. 15 times 1 does equal 15. How about if my given number was a large number, like 234? My given number, 234, times 1 should equal my given number, so it should equal 234. And that's true. 234 times 1 does equal 234. This rule is also true if my given number is a fraction. Let's take a look. Let's say my given number is the fraction 3/4. I multiply it times 1. Well, I know that a given number times 1 equals the given number, so if my given number is 3/4, 3/4 times 1 will equal 3/4. What if my given number is 9/20, and I multiply that times 1? It should equal 9/20, and it does. Let's look at it in a slightly different format right now. What if my given number was 2/3? And I multiplied it times 4/4. Well, in 4/4, the numerator and denominator are the same, and when my numerator and denominator are the same, I know that that fraction is equal to 1. So 2/3 times 4/4 is really the same thing as saying 2/3 times 1. So my answer should equal my given number, which was 2/3. Because a given number times 1, no matter what that 1 looks like, equals the given number. Let's take a look at one more fraction example. What if my given number was 8/21, and I multiplied it times 12/12? Well, 12/12, numerator and denominator are the same, so 12/12 equals 1. It's the same thing as saying 8/21 times 1, which equals 8/21. So anytime you're multiplying a number by 1 or a value that's equal to 1, your answer will be the given number. And finally, this rule also holds true when your given number is a mixed number. Let's see how that's done. What if my given number is 2 4/9, and I multiply that by 1? Well, given number times 1 equals the given number, so my answer should be 2 4/9. I didn't need to do the math, I just know that my answer will be the given number. What if my given number is the mixed number 21 3/5, and I multiply that by 7/7? Well, 7/7, numerator and denominator are the same, so that has to equal 1. So it's like saying 21 3/5 times 1, which we know will equal 21 3/5. So the rule, a given number times 1, or anything that has the same value as 1, equals the given number. Our third fraction hint says a given number times a value less than 1 will give us a product that's less than the given number. Note to remember here are our comparison signs. Our sign right here, greater than, where the mouth opening comes first, equals greater than. The sign that looks like a slanted L means less than. And of course our equal to sign means equal to. So if my given number is 8, and I multiply that by 1/2, 8 is my given number, 1/2 is less than 1 because my numerator is less than my denominator. So my answer, my product, should be less than my given number. My product should be less than 8. Let's solve it and see if my product is less than 8. 8 was a whole number. I turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1. I multiply it by 1/2 and use the GCF to do the x11 reducing or simplifying strategy, which gives me 4/1 times 1/1. When I multiply them out, my numerator times numerator is 4. My denominator times denominator is 1, so that gives me 4/1, which I know equals 4. Write that answer back on my original problem, and 8 times 1/2 equals 4. 8 was my given number. 1/2 was a value less than 1. Should give me a product that's less than my given number, and my 4 is less than 8. So a given number times a value less than 1 will equal a product or an answer that's less than the given number. So our fourth and final fraction hint is a given number times a value greater than 1 will equal a product greater than the given number. Let's take a look at this example. The given number is 8. It will be multiplied by 1/2. Underline the given number in purple since it's my given number. 1/2 is greater than 1. Given number times a value greater than 1 should give me a product that's greater than my given number. So my product or my answer should be larger than 8. Let's solve this and see if that works out true. My whole number of 8 I'll turn into a fraction, 8/1. My mixed number of 1/2, I'll change it. 2 times 1 equals 2 plus 1 equals 3. My denominator is 2, so I have 8/1 times 3/2. I'll use the GCF to fully simplify. Once it's fully simplified, we have 4/1 times 3/1. 4 times 3 equals 12. 1 times 1 equals 1, and we know that 12/1 is equal to 12. So my answer is 12. Well, a given number 8 times a value greater than 1, like 1/2, should equal a product greater than the given number. And 12 is indeed greater than 8. So my product 12 is greater than my given number. Let's try another example. In this example, my given number is 10, and we multiply it by 5/4. Is 5/4 equal to 1? No, because the numerator and denominator are not the same. Is 5/4 less than 1? No, because the numerator is not less than the denominator. Is 5/4 greater than 1? Yes, because the numerator 5 is greater than the denominator. So 5/4 is greater than 1. So I have my given number 10 times a number or a value that's greater than 1 should give me a product that is greater than my given number. My product or my answer should be greater than 10. Let's solve it and check to see that that's true. So I put 10 over 1 to turn it into a fraction, times 5/4, which is already a fraction. I'll use my GCF to fully simplify with the X11 strategy, which brings me to the problem 5 over 1 times 5 over 2. I'll say numerator times numerator, 5 times 5 equals 25. Denominator times denominator, 1 times 2 equals 2. So I have 25 over 2. And I know that that's not a proper fraction. It will not work in a chicken fight, so I will drop it down into the division box to divide. I finished dividing and come up with the answer of 12.5, so I'll write that back into my original problem. So I have 10, the given number, times 5/4, a value greater than 1, should give me a product greater than the given number, and 12.5 is indeed greater than 10. So a given number times a value greater than 1 will give me a product greater than the given number. Let's go back and review all 4 of our fraction hints from today. Fraction hint number 1, of means times. Fraction hint number 2, a given number times 1 equals the given number. Fraction hint 3, a given number times a value less than 1 will equal a product less than the given number. And fraction hint number 4, a given number times a value greater than 1 will equal a product greater than the given number. Now it's time to solve various different problems that we will see where we can use these fraction hint strategies without having to do the math. The directions say write greater than, less than, or equal to. I know greater than symbol looks like this, the less than symbol looks like that, and the equal to symbol looks like this. So let's focus on my first problem. The product of 7/8 and 4/3 is greater than, less than, or equal to 7/8. My given number that I'm comparing this to is 7/8, so I'll go back and find that same given number in the beginning of my problem. And there it is, 7/8, that's my given number. I know that product means times, so I'll be saying my given number, 7/8 times 4/3. I have to decide, is 4/3 equal to 1, greater than 1, or less than 1? Well, my numerator of 4 is greater than my denominator of 3, therefore 4/3 is greater than 1. And if I have a given number, 7/8 times a value that's greater than 1, like 4/3, my answer will be greater than my given number. So my answer should be greater than the 7/8. Notice for this problem it didn't ask for what the answer was. I just wanted to know if my answer would be greater than, less than, or equal to that given number. And since I multiplied by 4/3, which is greater than 1, my answer will be greater than my original given number. Let's focus in on my second example. The product of 7/8 and 1 will be greater than, less than, or equal to 7/8. Well, my given number that I need to compare to is 7/8. Find that earlier in the problem. That's my given number, 7/8. I know that product means multiplication, so I'll be multiplying that given number times 1. And a given number times 1 equals the given number. So 7/8 times 1 will be equal to 7/8. Let's take a look at our final example at the bottom of the page. The product of 7/8 and 6/9 is greater than, less than, or equal to 7/8. So I'm going to underline my 7/8. That's the given number I have to find. There it is. There's my given number earlier in the problem. Product means multiplication, so I'll be multiplying my given number of 7/8 times 6/9. Is 6/9 greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Well, my numerator is less than my denominator, therefore 6/9 is less than 1. So I have a given number times a number less than 1 will give me an answer that is less than my given number. Please stop the video and complete worksheet numbers 1 through 3 right now. Let's take a look at another type of word problem you'll see for these facts. Here the directions say write greater than, less than, or equal to. And we have multiplication problems. Okay, let's check it out. First thing I'm going to think in my head is greater than, that's what the sign looks like. Less than, that's what the sign looks like. Equal to, that's what the sign looks like. Let's focus in on our first problem. 5 4/7 times 2/3 is greater than, less than, or equal to 5 4/7. Well, I look at the end of the problem and find what the given number. 5 4/7, find that given number earlier in the problem. There it is, 5 4/7. I'll be multiplying that by 2/3. So is 2/3 greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Well, my numerator 2 is less than my denominator 3, therefore 2/3 is less than 1. So I have a given number times a number less than 1 will give me an answer that is less than my given number. Let's focus in on our second problem. 5 4/7 times 3 2/4 is greater than, less than, or equal to 5 4/7. Well, in the comparison, I'll find what given number they want me to focus on, 5 4/7. So find that given number earlier in my problem. Here it is. I'm going to be multiplying that by 3 2/4. I have to decide if 3 2/4 is greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1. Well, merely for the fact that there's a whole number and a fraction there, my whole number 3 is greater than 1, I know that 3 2/4 is greater than 1. So I have a given number, 5 4/7, times a number greater than 1, which means my answer will be greater than my given number. Finally, let's focus in on our last example. 6/6 times 2/3 will be greater than, less than, or equal to 2/3. So again, go to the end of the problem and find the given number they want me to look at, 2/3. Notice in this problem my 2/3 is second, not first, and that's okay. I always have to find the given number they're asking me to look for and underline that. So I will be doing that 2/3 times 6/6. Is 6/6 greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Well, my numerator and denominator are the same, so 6/6 is equal to 1. So I have a given number, 2/3, times a number that's equal to 1. Given number times 1 will equal the given number, so this will be equal to 6/6 times 2/3 will be equal to 2/3. Please stop the video and complete worksheet numbers 4 through 6 right now. This is yet another type of problem you might see. Write greater than, less than, or equal to. If 5/9 is multiplied by 2/2, the product will be greater than, less than, or equal to 5/9. So again, find what I'm comparing to at the end. That's my original given number. Find that given number in the problem. There it is. Multiplied by tells me this is a multiplication problem, so I'll take my given number 5/9 times what? Times 2/2. So now I have to say, are 2/2 greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Well, my numerator and denominator are the same, therefore 2/2 is equal to 1. So I have a given number times 1 will give me an answer that is equal to the given number. Please stop the video and complete worksheet number 7 right now. And another type of example. The recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of chocolate chips. I make 1 1/2 times the recipe. I will need greater than, less than, or equal to 1 3/4 cups of chocolate chips. Focus in on what I'm comparing, what I need for greater than, less than, or equal to. I want to know if it's greater than, less than, or equal to 1 3/4. That's my given number. Go back into the problem and find that given number. Here it is. Now, is this a multiplication problem? Yes, because times means multiply. Find the number that I'll be multiplying my given number by. And there it is, 1 1/2. I have to decide if that other number is greater than, less than, or equal to 1. Well, it's 1 whole and a half, so therefore 1 and a half is greater than 1. So I have my given number, 1 3/4, times a number greater than 1, should give me a product that's greater than my original number. Here's an example that's worded slightly differently. This example says the recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of chocolate chips. Sounds like the same recipe. But this time I will make 1/2 of the recipe. So I will need greater than, less than, or equal to 1 3/4 cups of chocolate chips. Well, let's find my last number, the number I'm comparing to. 1 3/4. That will be my given number. Find it earlier in the problem. There it is. I know that after a fraction, of means multiply. So I will be multiplying 1 3/4 times what? Times 1/2. Is that 1/2 greater than 1? Meaning the numerator is greater than the denominator? No. 1 is not greater than 2. Is it less than 1? Meaning the numerator is less than the denominator? Yes, 1 is less than 2. Therefore, 1/2 has to be less than 1. So I have a given number times a number less than 1 will give me an answer that is less than the given number. Please stop the video and complete worksheet numbers 8 and 9 right now. Finally, we may see some multiple choice problems that are similar to this. Mrs. Castellano writes 3 statements on the board. Which statement is true? We have 3 choices. Let's focus in on our first choice, which is choice A. 5/9 times 9/5 is equal to 5/9. Find my given number at the end, underline it, go back into the problem to find the same number and underline it. That's what I'll be comparing to. Circle the other number. That's what I'll be multiplying by. I have to decide whether that circled number is greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1. Well, 9 is greater than 5, so 9/5 has to be greater than 1. And I look at what this statement says. It says equal to 5/9. My answer would have to be greater than my given number, right? My given number, 5/9 times a number greater than 1, will give me an answer that's greater than my given number. This says equal to. That's not true. It should be greater than. So this choice A is not a good choice. Let's take a look at choice B. 5/9 times 9/5 is less than 5. Find the ending number. Underline it. Find the same number earlier in the problem and underline it. That's what I'll be comparing to. Circle the other number. That's what I'll be multiplying by. I have to decide whether the circled number is greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1. 9 is greater than 5, so 9/5 is greater than 1. So I have a given number times a number greater than 1 should be an answer that's greater than my given number. But this says less than. That can't be. So choice B is not a good choice either. So let's focus in on choice C. 5/9 times 9/5 is greater than 5/9. At this point you may know this answer, but sometimes the choices are very different, so let's look at it. My number at the end is 5/9. Find 5/9 earlier in the problem, underline that as well. Circle the other number. 9/5 is greater than 1. So if I'm multiplying by a number that's greater than 1, my answer has to be greater than the number I started with. So 5/9 times 9/5 should be greater than 5/9. Therefore, my answer choice is choice C. So I know we have a lot of examples, but you know, annoying me, I want to make sure that you've seen every type of problem that you might see. So Mrs. Castellano writes 3 statements on the board. These are different answers. Which statement is true? Choice A, 5/9 times 5/9 equals 5/9. Underline your last fraction. Find the same fraction earlier in the problem. Well, we see 2 of them, so it doesn't matter. I'll pick one of them. Circle the other fraction. Look at your circled number and decide if that's greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1. 5 is less than 9, so this has to be less than 1. Therefore, 5/9 times 5/9 should be less than 5/9. So A is not correct. Let's look at choice B. 2/3 times 1/3 is equal to 2/3. Find my last number, underline it. That's 2/3. Go back into my problem, find the same number and underline it. Circle the other number, which is 1/3. Is 1/3 greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Well, 1 is less than 3, so 1/3 is less than 1. And this says equal to 1, so that's not good. Choice B will not work. Finally, let's take a look at choice C. 4/7 times 8/8 is equal to 4/7. Find the last number or the fraction and underline it, 4/7. Find the same fraction earlier in the problem and underline it, the 4/7. Circle the other fraction, 8/8. Look at the circled number. Is that greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Well, 8 is equal to 8, so that's equal to 1. And this problem says that it should be 4/7 times 8/8 is equal to 4/7, so choice C is our correct answer. And let's take a look at the final problem. If looked at quickly, lots of kids get this problem wrong, so let's look carefully. Mrs. Castellano writes 3 statements on the board. Which statement is true? A, 5/9 times 5/9 is equal to 5/9. Underline the last fraction. Find the same fraction earlier in the problem. If there's 2, pick one and underline it. Circle the other fraction. In this case, it's 5/9. Is that fraction greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Well, 5 is less than 9, so 5/9 has to be less than 1. And this choice says that it's equal to, so that is not correct. A is not a correct choice. Let's take a look at choice B. 5/9 times 5/9 is less than 5/9. Again, go to your last fraction and underline it. Find a fraction just like it in the problem. If there's 2, pick one and underline it. Circle the other fraction. That's the fraction we'll be multiplying by. Take that circled number. Is 5/9 greater than 1, less than 1, or equal to 1? Well, 5 is less than 9, so it's less than 1. And this one says less than. So choice B is the correct choice. 5/9 times 5/9 is less than 5/9. Very often in a problem like this, students don't work it out, and they just say, oh, 5/9, 5/9, 5/9 has to be equal to, because they're all equal to, and they would pick choice A. But choice A is not correct, because when we work it out, we know that the correct answer choice is choice B, because 5/9 times a number less than 1 is less than the 5/9 we started with. Please stop the video and complete worksheet numbers 10 through 12 right now. So let's review. Number 1, the word of after a fraction means times, or to multiply. Number 2, a given number times 1, or anything that's equal to 1, is equal to the given number. Number 3, a given number times a value that's less than 1 is equal to a product or an answer that's less than the given number. And number 4, a given number times a value that's greater than 1 is equal to a product or an answer that's greater than the given number. So hopefully by now you can confidently say, when I see of after a fraction, I know to multiply, and I can use my knowledge of fractions to solve problems without doing the math. We'll do more practice in class. If you have any questions or concerns, please see a teacher. We will sit down and work with you. Good luck with this lesson.